We're not looking to hurt China. China is being hurt very bad. We're not looking to hurt China. China is being hurt very badly. Factories, they were having a lot of unrest, and they were very happy to be able to do something with us. And the relationship is very, very good. I'll speak to President Xi maybe at the end of the week. We have some other things we're doing. But one of the biggest things that we're doing, and I don't know if people realize this, but we made a great deal with China, great trade deal, but it was a much bigger deal originally, and then they canceled it right in the last day. Some of you faces I remember were there when that happened. I remember you. And we had a deal where they opened up their country to trade with the United States. And they took that away at the last moment, and then I canceled the whole thing. And then 6 months later, we ended up doing a smaller deal, but it was a big deal. It was $50 billion.
So Donald J. Trump announced a trade deal, 90-day trade deal with China. They're going to drop their tariffs only down to 10%. We're going to drop ours down to 30%. Trump is winning again. We'll get into this deeper. He's punking ping pong and against all the naysayers that said he could not do it. We'll be covering this later. Of course, Newsom thinks, just discovered, there's a gazillion vagrants rolling around California, and he's been financing them. He's out with a little deal today.
And we begin with this breaking news from Sacramento. Governor Gavin Newsom expected to call on cities to ban homeless encampments. Governor cannot force cities to carry out this ban, but he is releasing a blueprint that cities can use to remove tents from public properties. Last year, the U.S. Supreme Court ruled that governments can penalize people for sleeping on sidewalks and in other public areas. The governor will announce funding later today to address our state's homelessness crisis as well. The announcement expected to focus on mental health services supporting the seriously ill and the homeless.
Fruitcake Newsom's just figuring this out. We got 187,000. We probably got 500,000 vagrants rolling around. They give us phony counts. They treat us like children. They spent at least $100 billion over 20 years plus, probably $200 billion, maybe $250 billion on this con they've been working us, and they made the problem substantially worse. Holy bleeping freaking cow. It's unbelievable. Some of the stuff that we buy into on this, and I'm rolling through some of the stories, is we can't, sometimes I don't think we could be that stupid, but we are. Sometimes it pays to listen to people, especially when you don't or unfamiliar with things.
It's good to go. No issues at all. To turn it on there. It's fast, so be careful when you hit the garage.
Be careful when you hit this because it's going to take off like a bottle of rockets. The caption said, "I'll pay you $100 if I didn't laugh." That absolutely out of control. Like on this other stuff, voting, paying attention to politics, paying attention to what's really going on in your school's daily lives, Save Our Girls Sports, all that stuff. We'll have this and more. The local coverage. Man, did we have a lot of shootings, stabbings, people getting burnt to death. I mean, it's been incredible. Funky slide guitar music that comes in every Monday through Friday, live at 5 or close to it on the Evil IP Network, Rumble, X, YouTube, all that good stuff rolling around. Sometimes the big deal, well, two big deals. One, worldwide United States. Trump punking ping pong over there in China. All the naysayers that said, Trump, China's controlling everything. Xi's on ping or whatever the stupid guy's name is. Oh, he's way better than Trump. He's heard Trump had this deal worked out in Trump before and they pulled out. This time we brought them to their knees. Trump said, F-A-F-O, ping pong. Oh, you think you screwed us around the last time. Well, we'll just jack them up 145% tariffs on your products, your junk products coming into the United States. How are you going to deal with that, buddy boy? We heard reports last week ping pong was ready to come to the negotiating table and actually cut some fair trade deals. We saw the culmination of that today. And all the nattering nabombs of negativism at the New York Times and the WAPO and PMSNBC, as Rush used to say, and the discredited CNN, and on and on and on, who are caterwauling. Trump's going to kill the U.S. economy. We're all going to be sitting out the streets. The Great Depression was going to be pale into comparison. What Trump's doing on trade and this, he's going whatever. Carney in Canada, Stearns or whatever the UK clown is, ping pong. Oh, they're gonna eat Trump's lunch. To every one of you libtard, left wing, nutcase, establishment, whatever figure, stick it in your ass. How's that for plain ditch bank Okie talk? Because I, for one, am getting tired of it. Tired of defending this stuff. Tired of every day you come in and you have to listen to the same old idiotic nutcase garbage. And here it is. We are still at 30% tariffs on China for 90 days. China dropped them to 10%, which is probably lower in aggregate than they were before, because some of them they had at 9,432%. All of them are dropped down to 10% right now of goods going from the United States to China. 30% coming from China to the U.S. Now you tell me who is dominating, winning, in charge of this little ball game. Who is winning? Whose scorecard is up? Donald J. Trump. Whose scorecard is in the tank? Ping pong of China. The establishment, oligarchs, left-wing kooks, that have been running around with their hair on fire. Oh, the end of the world is coming. Instead of trusting in Trump. A guy who has a track record, isn't like you're just. This might have been the case in 2017. Okay, never had been a politician. Okay, very successful businessman, won the presidency, but show us what you got. And even though I was overall mostly impressed with Trump 1.0, Trump 2.0 is off the freaking charts. 2, of course, he has that 4 years of experience of being POTUS. Had the 4 years layoff to come back and retool, learn from the mistakes, correct them, and now you're seeing his popularity go even as much in the first 100 days. Phony polls, 98.7% or whatever it was, negative coverage on almost all and all the dominant mockingbird stupid press. Despite all that, and they knocked him down a little bit below 50%. Even on the Rasmussen poll. Now he's back up. Quantum Insights, Big Data Poll, Rasmussen, which is the only one that does it day to day. They've had him mostly above 50% or more on the plus side, except for the last couple weeks when the goofballs were just relentlessly trying to beat him to death in the press over everything. He's got a hangnail today. Oh, how evil Trump is. I think showing Joe Biden showing up helped his popularity because people are thinking, well, don't care how bad Donald J. is. We could not stand. Not 4 more seconds, much less years of slow Joe. And we don't have to go through all the history of, border crossings. We had almost 200,000 this time last year. Now they're down to 4,000 or 5,000. They let half, close to 100,000, just. There are only 5 that are not detained of the ones the Trump administration did. And that's because they want to hold them through to trials that are coming up for criminals in this country. No gotaways, no catch and release, not in internment camps. In fact, the detention, they're not jails, they're not prisons, they're detention facilities. You can walk around the defense, you got your own room, you can walk around, you can phone call, you can talk to people, you can go outside and play, exercise, do whatever. Play cards in the poker room or what the hell ever. Nobody's being tortured. They're not in solitary confinement, getting beat 6 times a day, like the J6ers were. And then, maybe a quarter a bowl of gruel a day and a quarter cup of water for you to survive. Look, we persecuted people, grandmas who were just walking through the Capitol, which I don't know how the hell you even get to. It's not trespassing when the cops open the door and say, come on in. But it's looking 10 gazillion times better. Even though the past 2 or 3 weeks have been shaky on the Trump deal. It's been refreshing to see this. This is in the NBC News Bay Area of California. And you know, they were PMSing, heads exploding, tears flowing. Over the things that were going on and the announcements that were made. But more from the tapes, before we get to that, more from the tapes. This morning, Donald J. from the great Donald J. Trump. This morning's announcement, China is acquiescing to the United States on trade negotiations ongoing.
That's the single, I think, to me, some people would disagree. Some people would say we're getting a lot of money with tariffs or whatever. But, you know, especially when you add what we already have. Because remember, we're already getting the 50% on steel and different things. That's not included in these numbers. So you can add that. But the biggest thing to me is the opening up. I think it would be fantastic for our businesses if we could go in and compete with China. It would be a lot of jobs for China. It would be, I think, at a time when they can frankly use the jobs. And that's what we're talking about. So that's a very, very important element to add. So when Scott, I watched him speak the other day, and I think he didn't want to say it, but I said, it's okay to say it. Look, if we don't get it, we don't get it. But if we don't get it, it won't be a positive thing. But if we do get it, I think it's maybe the most important thing to happen. Because if you think about it, we opened up our country to China. They have very few restrictions. And they didn't open their country to us. Never made sense to me. It's not fair. And they've agreed to open China, fully open China.
It's not fair. We've done these, wrong one. We've done these stupid idiot trade agreements time and time again. And everybody, all the ones who were castigating Trump and it's never going to happen, were all saying, oh, trade agreements and fairness and DEI and all that other stuff. And we sit there and Trump saying, what? And we were supposed to acquiesce to China in unfair trade agreements and everybody else, Canada, Mexico, Russia, the UK, every other country. We were supposed to take it in the shorts. Is that what you really, that's what you were really saying? I don't know. This stuff is flipping. Absolutely. Without a doubt. Crazy.
And I think it's going to be fantastic for China. I think it's going to be fantastic for us. And I think it's going to be great for unification and peace. China will also suspend and remove all of its non-monetary barriers. They've agreed to do that. Well, they're very numerous. But again, to me, the biggest thing that came out of that meeting is they've agreed. Now we have to get it papered, but they've agreed to open up China. I'd like to go back to China just for a second. They're very heavy on the fentanyl. We're charging.
China, has agreed to open up their markets. For the first time in probably 40 years. This started under George Poppy Bush in '89, went through Clinton, W. Bush, Obama. We almost had a deal in Trump 1.0, but they backed up because once they figured that the COVID con might work, they dropped out of it. Why do you think that stuff was going on? All of us that were trading on the truth and took all the brickbats for doing it, again, are being proven right. Caroline Leavitt, spokeswoman extraordinaire for Donald J., was on Fox News, not only about the peace, but the trade on China agenda. Here we go.
The next 100 days would consist of peace deals and trade deals, and that's exactly what we have seen. The president announced last week the big trade deal with the UK, as you mentioned. Now we have a first deal with China. Just yesterday, the president announced the release of the last remaining American hostage in Gaza, Eden Alexander, who will soon be united with his loving family. God bless him. That's thanks to President Trump. We also negotiated a ceasefire with the Houthis, and President Trump was instrumental in negotiating a ceasefire with India and Pakistan. This is all in the last week. President Trump and his team are working incredibly hard on behalf of the country and the world to secure peace deals and trade deals. And don't forget, we have a tax deal coming too. The administration is working with Capitol Hill to sign the largest tax cuts in American history right now.
I'm waiting, see how they're going to spin that one. After all they said of the past 2 or 3 weeks, Trump was going to foul everything up from trade to peace to the American economy, starve children, execute immigrants, and the whole whatever they were trying to do. It's all 100% BS out in the ocean. Want to get to this while we wrap up on the trade deal. Peter Navarro, we've had him on the show. When he was running for supervisor or mayor or whatever he was doing in San Diego 30 years ago or so. Let me say back then, me and Peter Navarro were probably on a lot of opposite sides of the issues. No, Navarro's come a long way to my side of the issue, which should be a lesson to everyone. He may disagree with that, but I think we can go back in the tapes. But he's been was chief trade guy in Trump 1.0, one of the point men along with Bessent and Lutnick in Trump 2.0. And they've been beating Peter Navarro one up end and down the other. Because Peter Navarro is a loyalist to Donald J. And those forces that hate the frickin' ground that Donald J. walks on, they will do anything to destroy anybody with it. Especially guys like Navarro, who were substantially on the left side of the aisle, that are now MAGA, some of the biggest MAGA supporters. Oh, it drives me absolutely nuts. Here's Peter Navarro explaining the trade deal.
It's the non-tariff barriers. So when countries like Vietnam or entities like the EU say to us, oh, let's all go to zero tariffs and everything will be okay. That's not the problem. It's part of the problem, but the bigger problem is the non-tariff barriers. In Europe, it's the VAT tax. I mean, I don't know if you know this, but the United States has tried going back to the 1970s to get equity treatment for the VAT tax, which most countries of the world use, versus the income tax, which we use. We haven't been able to get it because the WTO has a majority of people who benefit from sticking it to the United States. So they do. So the zero tariff thing, that's misdirection, and on your set, you should call it on that. When they say, let's lower the non-tariff barriers and let's give you relief on the VAT tax, now we're talking. It's the
So the VAT tax, value-added tax, is a quasi de facto tariff that most other nations employ against us. Oh, well, we don't have low tariffs, or we got low tariffs, but we're killing you on the VAT tax on top of the stupid tariff agreements. So this is what Trump and guys like Peter Navarro, Scott Bessent know and have been explaining, and I get it, a lot of it's in the weeds, And if you're not familiar with the lingo or governments or how economies work, you can think, I mean, you can hear 27 different things and you could be going like, I don't know what the hell's going on. But this is just the VAT tax is another way we've been getting screwed. Our companies have been getting screwed both ways on this deal more from Navarro.
On tariff barriers. So when countries like Vietnam or entities like the EU say to us, oh, let's all go to zero tariffs and everything will be okay. That's not the problem. It's part of the problem, but the 70s to get equity treatment for the VAT tax, which most countries of the world use, versus the income tax, which we use. We haven't been able to get it because the WTO has a majority of people who benefit from sticking it to the United States. So they do. So the zero tariff thing, that's misdirection. And on your set, you should call it on that. When they say, let's lower the non-tariff barriers and let's give you relief on the VAT tax, now we're talking.
Now we're talking. We're talking now. Trump's got every leader in the world talking to us, the United States. The biggest market by far, hands down, without any question. This is the way it should be. Understand the golden rule. He who has the gold makes the rules. We've been violating that in the United States. And we have been shamed, called names, and everything else. And again, what point? You know, everybody's self-interest is their self-interest, and that's what people go on. Again, you use the example. You just let anybody come into your house, or you're going to let your kids starve while the neighbor's kids eat fat, dumb, and happy. Oh, it's fairness. Oh, shut up. You don't do it in your personal life. Why should you expect? Government is just an extension of your personal life. If you want to talk fairness, it should be the same for everyone. So fairness means same for everyone. Equal protection under the law. That is fairness. If you don't have that, you have a communist dictator, whatever. So, good deal on the trade, the impending trade war that Trump is winning exponentially. And kudos to them for absolutely doing it. Sophia Lowry, you've seen her on this show through the tapes at Riverside Unified School District. Premier athlete, school board members, the great Sonia Shaw from Chino Valley and Leandra Blades from Yorba Linda Placentia. They were down, Save Girls Sports at, I think it was Yorba Linda Placentia and Leandra Blades' jurisdiction. The boy that's been beating up on the girls' sports again. Just the fact that we're even talking about this is ridiculous. And the mom of the boy was trying to make, excuses of that for this. Here's Sophia Lowry.
Thank you. My name is Sonia Shaw. I'm a mom of two amazing female athletes and also the president of Chino Valley Unified. I stand here as a voice for many. I'm someone who refuses to not back down when truth, fairness, and our children are under attack. What's happening here today isn't just a race. It's a line in the sand. A boy is dominating in a girls' event. And I'm here to say enough is enough. This is wrong. I received a cease and desist letter from the mother of this boy, A.B. Hernandez, for speaking the truth alongside Jessica Tapia.
Jessica Tapia here from Jurupa Valley, who sued on this whole thing. The insanity. Why it's absurd we're even talking about this. That's what's absolutely off the charts.
Many faces here have went to CIF. We have spoke the truth year after year, standing in front of them, telling them
Year after year, spoke the truth. And it's like we're in this twilight zone. It's unbelievable. It's almost, if you weren't watching it, it would be like this isn't really happening. Here's Sophia Lauer to get the right ones, I hope.
California teacher who lost her job for simply stating that she would not allow a boy into the girls' locker room. And most powerfully, you'll hear from the female athletes themselves. Girls who should only be focused on competing today, but instead have been forced to take a stand, raise their voices, and speak out against the unfairness of having to compete against a male athlete. All because CIF refuses to do their job and protect girls' sports. I never imagined I would have to be here, fighting for the same opportunities I had growing up as a female.
It's unbelievable. Nobody would thought. Nobody would even conceive we would be at this point. I mean, again, the absurdity of this is like off the charts. Leandra Blades spoke again too. She was the school board when this was in her district. Her and another person on the board are fighting it. 3 are still the majority. We're like, okay, we're fine with this. It's really, really, really unbelievable. Another unbelievable story coming up is Gavin Newsom. He suddenly discovered, oh, we got vagrants in California. Excuse me. Now he's coming out with a plan. Oh, you know, if cities are letting vagrants stay around more than 3, they can't camp more than 3 days out on the sidewalk. They can't piss or poop in your lawn. Well, after the 3rd day, we might do something. We might do something about it. That's so absurd. Here's the NBC Bay Area report. Here we go.
At 11, Governor Gavin Newsom announces a new plan to clear California's encampments. This is the mayor of one South Bay city's proposal to arrest some unhoused individuals gets put to the test. Good morning and thanks for joining us for our midday newscast. I'm Laura Garcia.
And I'm Chris Sanchez. Marcus Washington is off. In just about 90 minutes, Governor Gavin Newsom is expected to unveil new efforts to clear encampments statewide.
NBC Bay Area's Ginger Conejero-Saab joins us live in San Francisco. And Ginger, do we know what the governor will officially announce?
Well, good morning, Laura and Chris. We do know the government will talk about model ordinances that gives jurisdictions across the state ways to enforce encampments and the clearing of them. I know last.
Shut up. We have laws. We have the ability to get rid of this stuff. Wait, there is no excuses. There was no excuses to let it get to this point. 100, 200, $300 billion have been spent on this in 20 years. 24 billion, the latest giveaway Newsom did. We don't even know where the money is. $1 million, 200 square feet bungalows. They get destroyed, and then we have to pay to fix them back up again. Hotels, vouchers, all because those mean white hillbillies were doing X, Y, and Z. Shut the freaking hell up.
Year, Governor Newsom signed an executive order that directed state agencies to develop policies not only to address encampments on state property, but also to prioritize them. Now, just a couple months shy of the 1-year mark, Governor Newsom is releasing what he calls model ordinances or starting points for local jurisdictions to create and implement programs to resolve encampments in public spaces. But he says local jurisdictions must do so with urgency and with dignity. So here are some key principles that govern.
Let's quit with the stupid talk. Oh, dignity and that. No. You are violating the law. You are a public freaking health hazard. Get the frink out. We got a place for you. Treatment facility, jail. Which one do you want? We've had programs up the wazoo. Hundreds of billions of dollars have been spent on this, and the problem gets exponentially worse every frickin' day. And we're going to come up with another, we need dignity. No! We got to stop running on this 111% emotional crap.
Governor Newsom wants all local jurisdictions to use in approaching this. One, no criminal punishment. No person should face criminal punishment for sleeping outside if they are not offered shelter options. Encampment policies must prioritize shelter and services, and policies that must not unduly limit local.
That's already in place. We passed another stupid bond for $7 billion for this. For more of the rip-off deal, and we're talking about it. Shut the hell up.
Authority to clear encampments. Now, the governor released examples in these model ordinances. For example, local jurisdictions, they can limit the number of consecutive days that someone camps out. However, they can also choose to dictate how far they can be from sensitive locations like schools or other public spaces.
How about none? None. No days, no nothing. You're done. That's what most cities are doing right now. From the Supreme Court rulings in the Oregon case and down there in Arizona and things, with Prop 36 finally straightening out some of the bad stuff of 47 or 47, 57, and 109. How about none? Zero. Hey, you are not supposed to be here. You are blocking public right-of-ways, ingress, regress, movement of people. You're a health hazard. You're violating the quality of life of everyone else in public facilities. GTFO. Again, you want treatment, fine. We have 9,432 programs for you if you really want to straighten your act up. Or you can have a jail cell. Alex Michelson of Fox 11 got the pertinent question in on this. Notice this was a Zoom meeting deal where it wasn't that he was doing a press conference and having the porters ask questions. Well, I mean, it was live, but we're doing the Zoom meeting crap again. You always know the jig is up when they're doing this. Anyway, this is Alex Michelson asking the pertinent question.
This is Alex Michelson from Fox 11 Los Angeles, and my question is for you. Who exactly are going to be in these beds? How do you determine who that is? Is it care court people who may not necessarily want to be there? Is it people that are coming on their own free will? And broadly, at this point, after so much work and so much money and so much has been put into this, what big obstacle do you have left? Or has this, at this point, sort of gotten through a lot of the obstacles and now it's time for execution?
Well, it's just about execution. And at the end of the day, now it's about local government.
It isn't about local government. Well, it is partially. It's been about 20 years of you and your crew effing this whole deal up. After 20 years and hundreds of billions of dollars, and it's 97 gazillion% worse. Of course, now you're throwing up your hands like this. Oh. This guy is absolutely. Here's a follow-up question from Alex. Here we go.
And on top of them, there's some campus settings here, which are really exciting. There's a regional component to this to make sure we're addressing gaps in underserved communities. And there's, again, only a handful of counties that are not included, and those counties are part of a larger regional consortium, so they still have the benefit of these dollars.
I mean, how does this tie into your overall thought about clearing up encampments? I know there's news today on that front of you pushing local governments on this point. Is this adding to the idea of one less thing that there's an excuse on?
You said it better than I could. One less thing that there's an excuse on. We're flooded the zone in terms of support and resources.
You have for 20 years and you've effed it up worse. There has been no excuses. You've gotten every stupid, idiotic, dumbass, feel-good, emotional frickin' deal you wanted. And it's still AFU, all fouled up. And you can substitute the F word. Substitute. Turd is a good one too. Substitute the F word at your pleasure. You have fouled it up. You and your ilk. Now you're trying to get on the right side of this, but you won't. If you're going to do this, then let's step into it, buddy. No more. We ain't tolerating this. Zero, just like the border. Biden, everybody, 200,000 in last month. About half of them got away. We don't even know where the hell they're at. Trump, it's down to 5, and the only reason they are still here or not in it or what is because they are wanted for trials coming up. The rest, and it's what, down to 5,000. It doesn't even come down. Trump couldn't do that. Shut up. Just shut the hell up. You know the right policy. Quit pussyfooting around everything, which I know is very hard for you to do. And just suck it up, Buttercup. And you know what needs to be done? Just turn law enforcement, cities, counties loose. Say, just clean this crap up. That's all we wanted. Clean it up. It's all, anything everybody's been asking for. Why that's so frickin' hard to understand. Ugh. Drives you absolutely nuts. There were some dudes in Harupa Valley who thought they were billboards, who thought they owned a billboard and were going to redo the whatever advertisement on there. Well, the graffiti artists are now looking where they should be at the Gray Bar freaking Motel. as the cops said, they thought they were going to do their artwork. They forgot to ask permission of the billboard owner. 92-year-old man who was assaulted in Banning dies following the incident at the Banning healthcare facility. 92-year-old man killed in a Muscogee fire. That's from the Inland Wire. KCAL News said that, and others have reported, 5 stabbed in an Elmer Day sober living house on 4th Street and Fairmont Boulevard. Men in custody over that incident in Riverside. Mobile cops. Again, the ghetto shoppers thought they were just going to walk out the door without paying for the Nike shoes. Riverside and mobile cops teamed up to locate and arrest the suspects, and now they are looking at the Gray Bar Motel. Caltrans District 8 wants you to know that on the 215 various pavement and safety work issues continue on the Menifee, there in Menifee and Murrieta. Rialto cops, Colton cops, and Purdue probation were cleaning out the vagrant camps before Newsom made his idiotic, dumbass announcements. We don't need plans, we need action. 2 men were arrested after allegedly strangling a woman and assaulting her while the 2 of them were driving in Riverside County. There's a suspect, one of the suspects. Rancho Cucamonga was on the retail theft detail again, like a Haruva Valley and Riverside cops were. So good job, Rancho C dudes. Yes, there's the raging house fire. There's pictures of it from 5. That killed a 92-year-old man there in Muscogee, just north of the big town of Purdue. News released from the Riverside Police Department. Man arrested for multiple lewd acts near a local school. 3 female victims were reported witnessing a man masturbating while inside a black Mercedes parked next to Abraham Lincoln High School in the East Side neighborhood. Some of these, there's pictures of the black Mercedes, so Riverside cops have arrested that man. I wish he would show some pictures. We got to get back to, stop the emotional crap. Need to get back to showing booking photos of these guys. Homeless encampment near Pacific High. They can't get this ish under control. Kids having to walk the street because the sidewalk is looking like crap. We told you, this is why Newsom, no excuses. We don't want kids walking to school and having to go through this. I get to the part, no wonder why parents do not want to let their kids, even teenagers, for Christ's sakes, walk to school because they got to go through this. Undercover chat operation leads to the arrest of a man who agreed to meet a minor for sexual acts. This is from the San Bernardino County Sheriff's Department. Rancho Cucamonga Police Department rolls this one. These are some of the worst stories that we have to report. Riverside police shoot and wounded a man as he returned to a bar that kicked him out for allegedly brandishing a gun, reports ABC7. Told you there's a lot of stuff. Man released from jail arrested after attempting to break into vehicles in the employee parking lot. He didn't even hardly get out of jail in Purdue, and he's already committing crimes. Beaumont News Service, traffic collision at the intersection of 12th and North Street. Looks fairly nasty on that. Hope everybody is okay. There's the one in Muscoy. We did that. Another traffic collision reported on 10th and Main in Cabazon. The shooting happened in Lake Paris. Of that, hot times going. You just can't get, like I told you, this was Mother's Day weekend, for crying out loud. Lake Elsinore explorers were delivering sweet smiles and ice cream treats to those on movie night out there in Wildemar. So good job, explorers. Multi-structure fire in Moval. Wonder what was going on there. Riverside County Sheriff's Department. Teenager killed and wounded during a shooting in Wildemar. Told you it was a fun weekend. More stuff going on. San Bernardino Media News. It was a while. Let's see what else was on there. The Foot Pursuit. That was pretty good. There at Del Rose and Dale Street. Offer up robbery. Went down there. San Bernardino cops said, watch the hell out. Of course, Trump with the ceasefire. The great Donald J. More from the Moval cops. Deputies responded to call for service or driver passed out behind the wheel of a U-Haul. Driver was unlicensed, possessed methamphetamine, and drug paraphernalia. Go figure. Former Palm Desert High School coach who killed a 64-year-old caregiver while driving under the DUI influence was sentenced to 15 years to life in prison. Probably not enough. One of our great ones. If you ever feel dumb, just remember there's people out there still getting COVID shots. Another prime arrest. As they say, I tell you what, we've been, again, Mother's Day weekend, and we had 6,000, there's so many stories, you can't even hardly cover them over the weekend. Usually, of course, because you're coming in from Friday, and there's a lot of stuff going on, because you're covering 3 days worth. But this one, and the violent ones. We're rolling through some of that after our lovely internet goes crazy. You touch one button, and everything goes nuts.
30 seconds, Roy.
We go. We'll see if we can follow up on 5 arrested and 22 cited in a DUI Parish checkpoint. Lunch and learn managers meeting there in Lake Elsinore. So as Sean said, we will be joining the Mighty Met KMET. Hopefully we'll have Dr. Kelly Victory on, as we usually do on a Monday.
Here we go, 10 seconds.
Phones have been going crazy, but I think... Who support America. PatriotSwitch.com.
IE Newswire Daily is on the air.
The following is a paid program. Views and claims expressed are those of the program producer and are not endorsed by this station. Opinions expressed are not necessarily those of radio station KMET, management, or corporation.
There's that funky slide guitar music that comes in every Monday through Friday, live at 5:30 on the Mighty Met, 1490 AM, broadcasting all over the Inland Empire on the aforementioned AM band. Join your vast video audience in the evil FB network, Rumble, X, YouTube, all that good stuff. Man, oh man, is it one heck of a day. As we go, the weekend was crazy out here in the Inland Empire. Shootings, stabbings, killing, people burn up in home fires. The whole gamut going on. What is people are just doing on Mother's Day weekend, for crying out loud. Just seems like everybody got their crazy out this weekend. Some of the good things that happened we'll get to here in a second. Newsom claimed he didn't know that we had vagrants in California. And oh, we got a new plan to fix it. Shut up. We know how to fix it. Let's just get it done. All this other stuff, but as we usually have on a Monday, we have, as I've determined her, the supreme physician in all the world and expert on COVID-19 and just about everything else, Dr. Kelly Victory. Welcome to IE Newswire with Roy.
Hey, Roy. Thanks for having me, and happy Monday.
And I'm almost shocked that the phones were, they've been out since Wednesday around here. And actually, they're working finally. I got them like about 2 o'clock my time today. Finally got them up and running. So this morning it was announced the trade deal, or a 90-day pause, let's put it that way, in tariffs with China. China is down to, went from 147 or 25 or whatever percent. They're down to 30%. We're only getting a 10%. Tariffs are being charged from goods going to the U.S. to China. Trump is punking ping pong in China, which a vast majority of experts that in the country, establishment, bigwigs, financial experts, down to the mockingbird distressed media in our country saying, oh, Trump's going to kill the economy. It's going to be worse than the Great Depression. Now, China, who was brought to its knees in about 60 days with this, and it was rumored coming back last week that, hey, they were ready, ping pong's ready to come to the negotiating table. It was announced today. When is it going to take for 111% of the United States citizens to trust in Trump, Dr. Kelly?
I agree with you. It's very interesting to me, and I think it's only because perhaps President Trump and his representatives haven't done a great job in explaining to the average American how these tariffs work. But you are spot on. This is exactly what he needed to do. He needed to right this ship and to right the wrongs. We have been raped for decades by all of these other countries, most importantly by China. President Trump is putting these tariffs in place that will, number one, start to return manufacturing to the United States, and it will make sure that we don't have such an imbalance in our trade overall. Yes, Trump knew he wasn't a gamble. He knew darn well that applying these thumb screws would bring all of these guys to the table. And that's, most of them came flocking immediately and said, me, we'll negotiate. And the Chinese have taken a little bit longer as anticipated, but they've shown up to negotiate now. So yes, these tariffs may, in the short term, drive the costs of goods up somewhat. But overall, it will right this ship and get us back into the position where we should be, which is the leader of the free world.
My buds down there at the docks, down there at the main shipping port in the world, down in Long Beach, been saying you thought COVID was bad on goods and goods coming in, getting shut off. And I mean, that was at least besides what was really going on, I mean, it was an excuse for that. They were saying, man, I was getting this reports a month ago. The businesses that were shipping in were panicking. They're saying the Chinese or the companies that had factories here in the U.S. or whatever that were importing the goods, or the Chinese companies, were in absolute panic. Because they said, if this stuff keeps up, we're going to be absolutely broke. And that's what Trump knew this. He was, fortunately this time, or in better position, let's put it this way, and to hold his ground. I think he has a much better team around him, too. That's one reason why. And he did. In record time, he brought ping pong down to his knees begging, please make this stop. Because there never was. China had almost all the cards to lose in this. That's why everybody else dropped the ball and said, hey, we're willing to do this, and don't be doing us. This was mainly Trump versus ping pong, and ping pong is losing it big time, Dr. Kelly.
No, I agree. And this has needed to happen for, as I said, for decades. This wasn't some loose cannon thing that Trump decided to do. There's only one way to get this righted. Americans are addicted, first of all, to cheap products from China. We buy them hand over fist. We've lost so much of our own manufacturing capability. It's not just for pharmaceuticals. That's certainly an important piece of it, but it's for everything. I just this afternoon went shopping to 3 different children's stores to try to buy a baby gift for a family member who's having a new baby. And I could not find, I spent hours looking at the labels of everything from pacifiers to onesies to, baby blankets to try to find something that wasn't manufactured in China. Even if it had a nice fancy American made, like designed in Vermont, then you look at the back, made in China. Okay, maybe designed in Vermont, but it's actually made in a factory in China. And I will tell you right now, I wish more Americans would pay attention to that. And I think that with these tariffs, with the changing in the price structure, it will hopefully motivate more manufacturing here in the U.S. It will equalize the price structure so that maybe people will say, you know what, I'll go ahead and buy a U.S.-made product, even if it costs a few dollars more, or maybe it won't cost any more because of the tariffs. And I think overall, there's no question it is good for our economy. It's good for our sovereignty. It's good for the jobs market. It's good for everything.
Right around the time, and I think they had started, but just before, it might have been, but basically during the Trump 1.0, Cooper Tire was making, if not all, practically all of their tires. They'd built a new plant, I don't know, Mississippi or somewhere, making all their tires here. So I started buying for the past 7 or 8 years. I've been buying Cooper tires because they're one of the few. Some companies, some Goodyear, Firestone still make a few here and there, but you got to watch. But I bought their tires, competitively priced. They're not the cheapest. They're not the most expensive. They're like in the middle. Very good quality tires. Haven't had an issue with them. Drive fine, no road noise, all that stuff. And they've been making tires in the United States, something like, oh, you can't, we have to make them overseas because, no, it's the same with all of this stuff. Let's stop the phony rhetoric, lying to people. You're doing that because you can make an extra half a cent on whatever you're selling. That's the bottom line of this, Dr. Kelly.
Oh, there's no question. It's because you can get cheap labor, whether it's in China or India or wherever you're choosing to do it. And if you're Nike and you look at the sheer number of products that they are selling, sure, they're going for the cheap labor market, but it's not just cheap labor, it's cheap materials, lack of oversight, no quality control, there's the consistency in these products is very poor. And I don't know about you, but I'll be darned if I'm going to buy a baby, products for a newborn baby, a pacifier the kid's going to put in his mouth or clothing item it's going to wear that is made in a factory in a country that does not have the same standards that we do for quality and for a concern about toxic components and things of that sort. So I maintain this is good. The only thing I can fault this administration for is that they have not been out there really messaging it in a way, as I said, that I think the average person gets it and understands what to anticipate for how long it will take to sort of turn this around and when we'll start to see some relief. I think they could do a better job on the messaging.
Another switching gears on subject again, doofus Newsom just discovered we have vagrants here in California. We only have half of all of them or about that, even though we're only 12.5% of the U.S. population. But he's coming back with the same old, they can stay 3 days on the sidewalk in front of your house and business before cities can do. But cities and counties got to do something. Shut the freaking hell up. We have the problem. We've spent hundreds of billions of dollars since you've been in public life for the past 20 years on this, and the problem's gotten worse. We're done with the 111% emotional, and we got to do it with compassion and all that. No, We need them off the streets, off where they're a danger, off where they're a health hazard, because either they're a health hazard, most, I would say 90% plus of them are either burnt their brains out or have some sort of mental illness. They can't function in society. Yes, we got to do something to them. We should come up with the facilities, whether it's a treatment, quasi-hospital, jail, whatever, but this is a spot you're going to be in because we have determined you no longer can function in society and you're making the quality of life of everyone else just down in the toilet. That's what needs to be done, in my view, but what's yours, Dr. Kelly?
Oh, there's no question that you're right, Roy. The reality is that the homeless population largely suffers from either mental health issues, substance abuse issues, or both. And the effort to deinstitutionalize during the 70s and 80s is where this all went awry. There was this decision that we should somehow, it was more humane to let people out to live freely amongst their own feces and lice and rodent population under a bridge than to house them in facilities. That is ridiculous. We are not only relegating them to a horrible quality of life because they are at risk on a daily basis of overdosing or of dying from infectious disease, malnutrition, or street violence, but we're putting the rest of the public at the same risk. You literally have to walk over piles of human feces in San Francisco. There are needles discarded everywhere. You've got homeless, vagrant people panhandling on every corner, and you're having the resurgence. Everyone's all up in arms because we've had 20 cases of measles. Look, we've had cases of typhoid and all sorts of rodent spread diseases that are coming back. The plague. We have had cases of now the plague coming back in California. These are diseases that had been fundamentally not heard of for hundreds of years. But it turns out when you go back to these squalid conditions and allow people to live on the streets in these, in this way, it is bad not just for those individuals, but for all of society. And we've got to come up with a fix for it. And it doesn't mean you house them in a high-end hotel. We've got to build institutions where we say, look, people who have mental health and substance abuse issues, they cannot care for themselves. We will provide, federally or state-funded housing for these people where they will get treatment, but they will not be allowed to just be out on their own, wreaking havoc and spreading disease.
I mean, if you fried your brain on fentanyl, you're no longer going to be able to take care of yourself. That's just, and a whole host of other things, but that seems to be the most popular one going around now. But why can't you, and it's, again, the compassion part that they do, you pointed it out. We're letting them live in absolute squalor, and that's supposed to be compassionate? Is that your definition of it? That's what's, sometimes we're living in such a bizarro, crazy world. We can't see the facts of the matter, or we can't deal with them as they are. This is not a perfect world. Everybody's not equal. Everybody's not got the same capabilities. Let's figure this stuff all out, Dr. Kelly.
No, I agree. And I think, many people may remember the expose that Geraldo Rivera did when we were deinstitutionalizing people all those years ago. And the thought was that, as I said, it was going to be more compassionate to let people live freely. We've certainly seen the results of that experiment now. It didn't work. It is destroying this state and others, by the way. For certain, I was up in Spokane, Washington at a conference recently, and they're suffering the same plight. We can't live like this. We are turning into a third world country, and that is independent of the issues that we've had with unfettered illegal immigration to this country. These are Americans who are living on the streets, drug addicted, dealing with untreated mental health issues, and we have simply got to address it. And unfortunately, that solution is likely going to include finding places to house and, building facilities to house these people so that they can not only be off the street, but also get the treatment and access to medications and care that they need.
Grabbing the old 5-speed gearbox and hitting another gear. I haven't had time to read Trump's plan or whatever he's got for lowering drug prices, but I hope, and I hope you've looked at it, but I hope it's more of, I can tell you the easy one, let's just get a free market system back in place in all of our healthcare, not just drug prices, the whole thing. And like we used to be when healthcare, drugs, and everything else was affordable. Well, what say you, Dr. Kelly?
Yeah, this recent executive order, I think, is a bold move by the president. How it's exactly going to be operationalized remains to be seen. But fundamentally, what he is doing is saying that he's calling out the facts, which is that the United States has been paying a disproportionate share of pharmaceuticals. The government did a study back in 2021 comparing Australia, France, Canada, and the U.S., and it turns out that the Americans pay 2 to 4 times more than people in those other countries for the exact same drug. The pharmaceutical companies will tell you, well, the exorbitant cost of drugs is because of research and design and marketing and this and that. But why should the Americans pay the yeoman's share of that? Why isn't it spread equally? And the reality is because we're suckers and we have allowed it to happen. So what this recent executive order says is that we will have, quote, most favored nation status. All nations. Means comparing us to other countries that are similar in terms of their GDP per capita. That the drug companies will be told that they have to sell a particular drug to us at the lowest price that they sell it anywhere else. Which means take a drug, I don't care what it is, Ozempic or a blood pressure medication. If the drug company is selling it at a certain price to France or Canada or Sweden, that the lowest price that they are willing to sell it around the world to one of the most favored nations list, they will have to sell it at that price in the United States. Now, I believe that this is only going to really affect Medicare and possibly Medicaid because those are federal programs over which the president has control. I'm not sure exactly, as I said, how this would be operationalized or executed in the private sector or amongst private insurers. But again, this is a plan that should garner bipartisan support. This is something the Democrats have wanted to do for decades. Bernie Sanders himself had suggested a very similar plan in the past. So it doesn't mean they won't hair on fire because it's coming from Trump. But the reality is this is a move that should garner bipartisan support, and it should ultimately drive down drug prices, at least for seniors, via the Medicare program.
It'll have a big effect in California because I think the latest numbers, if I believe I'm correct, 50% of the people and 50% of the population in California are either on Medi-Cal or Medicaid. So that's a big chunk. I don't know where it is around the rest of the country, but it is a big chunk out here. And just from that standpoint, even just the California effect would have a lot to do with that. And we need to get that thing under control. Got a couple minutes left on that or anything else you want to let us know about?
No, I think I just, following the news and what's happening with regard to, unfortunately continued unrest in the MAHA movement. A lot of people concerned about things that are going on there, whether it's appointments that are being made or the failure of the current people who are in place to remove the mRNA shots from the market. I've been very clear that I thought this is something that needed to happen. I'm incredibly supportive of MAHA and of Robert Kennedy Jr. and the efforts that he's making to do things like remove the artificial dyes, remove the fluoride from the drinking water, the pesticides, address microplastics, and these sorts of things. But frankly, nothing at this juncture is more important than getting the toxic mRNA shots off the market. They, as I'm, speaking with you right now, Roy, there's a child somewhere getting a booster for COVID and putting him or herself at grave risk for negative consequences as a result. We've got to get those shots off the market.
111% on that. I mean, we can't undo the damage that's been done to this point, but we need to get rid of, we need to prevent this in the future. And that there isn't hardly anything that breaks my heart of what you just said. There's another kid getting a COVID shot. And after all we know now, that's absolutely heartbreaking. Thanks for being on, Dr. Kelly. We'll do this again soon.
Thanks for having me, Roy.
You got it, Dr. Kelly Victory, as we say, saying it only as she can. Man, oh man, oh man, what a deal. What a time that we're all going through. But we'll soldier on. Look, I mean, as bad as Newsom is, or the previous Biden administration, even though, and I believe justifiably so, ripping on their ass from what he's doing, look at how much progress we're making here, especially in 2025. We're unwinding some of these bad policies between trade policies, our healthcare system, boys and girls sports, and the list goes on. Immigration, well, there's a humongous one. We're unwinding these policies, and it's about time, and we're doing it at record speed. And that is something that we can all be grateful for. We're going to be heading down to the county of Riverside. These protests of warehouses because of this. If you don't actually want to protest it, I just don't want it in my backyard. But you're not going to stop the traffic going down the 215 or the 60, and we're all still going to die about the same amount of diesel smoke because y'all changed the economy, not only the cheap China crap, but ordering all the stuff and doing that, and no more mom and pop, or much less mom and pop businesses. So we'll be addressing that issue down there at about 6:30. So I'm going to bail out of here. As soon as this show's over, I'll bail out of here and we'll get to that point of doing that. But man, like I said, it was a chaotic weekend. As you know, I've been talking about standing up for our country, doing something. These big box stores stayed open while the little guys closed. Will our voices be heard? Does voting with our dollars work? PatriotSwitch.com gives patriots the power to walk away from the big box stores forever. Stop supporting the enemies of freedom now. That's why PatriotSwitch.com was created, for those who support America. PatriotSwitch.com. Is your car doing the hucklebuck and afraid you will be stuck? Well, head on down to Toyota of San Bernardino, Nissan of San Bernardino, Subaru of San Bernardino, in the San Bernardino Auto Mall, and catch a Camry, look ravishing in a Rogue, or be styling in a Subaru. Don't forget I-10 Toyota in Indio for those of you in the lower desert. You deserve to be the happiest human on the planet. So head on down to one of these 4 great dealerships for the car of your dreams. Spread the word. IE Newswire is now on every Monday through Friday, live at 5 p.m. on Rumble and KMET 1490 AM, 5:30 to 6 p.m. Join all the cool kids who want an eclectic look at the news without all the filters of the evil scoundrels of social media and the despicable dorks of the dominant press. Don't bumble and stumble. Subscribe to IE Newswire on Rumble and roll with the best hillbilly hoedown around. That's it. If you want to buy American, go to PatriotSwitch.com. If you need a new Toyota or Subaru, go to Winnicliff, Cummings, great dealerships at San Bernardino Auto Mall at the 10 and 215 freeways. Don't forget I-10 Toyota down in the lower desert. Hope all the moms had a great day yesterday on Mother's Day. Apologize for everyone that acted crazy this weekend. Maybe it's just a final backlash over the idiotic policies like Joe Biden had. Newsom tries to defend today is that, these things are easy to fix. They don't take much. It's not that complicated, but sometimes in our society we make it. Love it that Trump's proven them wrong for the 9,437th time. And that proves just some good old backyard engineering, ditch bank okie analysis. We'll probably win out 98.7% of the time. That's why you should listen a little bit more and talk a little bit less. That'll do it for today. As we usually say at this time, mandatory, you're back here in 23 hours wide. Best darn show in the whole wide world. Till then, see ya.
The proceeding was.
All right, Roy, I will talk to you tomorrow.
You got her.
Bye now.